Hello and welcome back to NetLab 5, Adding and Managing Virtual Hardware. We're going to take a look at Part 3 or Section 3, differentiating between thin provisioned and thick provisioned disks. So I've talked a little bit about this. Let's have a look. And I'm Richard Golson, and I'm going to take you through this piece. So we're going to view those and compare those two types of disks that we just created. And you can see those right over here. And you can see that this one here, hard disk 2, is thin provisioned, and here we can see the backing file, and that's located in datastore 1. Here we can see the thick provisioned disk. It says thin provisioned. No, its backing file is in datastore 1 as well. Notice the name difference on these files. These also work as links, so it's kind of neat. You can actually use these links to take you to the files. Rather than using the links, though, we're going to go ahead and explore this section over here in the navigator. So I'll close up the virtual machine node, and I'm going to open the storage node. And you'll notice in the storage node that we have the different data stores, and the one that I know I'm interested in is that datastore 1. That was the one we were taking a look at under the Photon. So again, if I expanded Photon 01 and took a look at that hardware configuration, you can see that, again, that is datastore 1. So let me go ahead and jump back over to that storage node here. Here's datastore 1. So let me select that. And here we can get the details about datastore 1. And datastore 1 is the internal data store located on this virtual machine, or I'm sorry, on this ESXi server. I believe that's a local data store. Let's take a look over here at the datastore browser. When I select the datastore browser and I take a look down here, here's Photon 1. So that is the folder where the virtual machine files reside. Let me expand this a little bit. It'll be a little easier to see. So if you take a look here, you can see that we have the VMX file here. We have the VMDK for the root disk, but then we have these two new disks. So I have this Photon 01_1 and the Photon 01_3. This was from a previous disk I had created without deleting the disk. So it's still sitting on here. And that's why my new disk was named, my second new disk was named 1_3. If I select this first one here, you get a little bit of more details. Notice that it says right here that there are 0 bytes. So this is basically an empty disk. This is one I just created. Let's take a look at this one here. You can see that this one actually is 1 gigabyte. So the thin provision disk only uses as much data store space as needed on the disk. So that disk right now is 0 bytes because I haven't placed anything on it. And until I actually utilize it and place data on that disk, it's going to remain at 0. If a thin provision disk needs more space, it can inflate up to the maximum capacity of that disk, which we set at 1 gigabyte. Now, looking at this disk here, we can see that this one is actually at 1 gigabyte. So the difference with the thick provisioned, in this case, thick provisioned eager 0, is that a whole series of zeros were written across this disk. So it utilizes the entire disk during creation. And even though it is filled with zeros, as I use or place files on there, they'll overwrite the zeros. All right, so this gives you an idea of where these disk files were located. If I look a little bit further, I can see here's another virtual machine. And here you can see that I have the VMX file and I have its VMDK. They're for the root disk. There's some other different types of files in here. There's even log files. And so you can look around and you can get some other information about some different things in here. It's kind of interesting to look around in the data stores. Okay, well, that's it for this specific task. We were just examining those files and the differences between the two. Just remember, thin provisioned, at the time you create it, it doesn't consume any space on the underlying data store and disks. Thick provisioned consumes space or grabs it all for that disk at the time of creation. All right, I'll see you when we come back. We'll take a look in the next section in the video.